It was a wonderful series against a really, really good Houston Astros team, and I just couldn't be prouder for this organization and the franchise, the players, the front office, the scouts, the player development guys, everybody that has had an input, an impact on this organization. It's a beautiful day to be a Nationals fan.
Since you bring up some of those guys, the scouting and all those things, you have an affinity to that. How old was Juan Soto the first time you heard of him?
The first time I heard of him, he was about 15 years old, maybe 14 and a half, 15 that season. And now Johnny DePuglia had a much deeper root system for him. He probably saw him when he was 12, 13 years old when it started, which is very familiar process where they usually get introduced to these young kids when they're just early teenagers and follow them through their 16 and a half year season, and then you have an opportunity to sign them. So. Juan is a special talent and a special player, and we're fortunate to see his likes here in D.C. He's a wonderful kid, and he's one hell of a player.
Yeah, and he's awesome. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but a lot of people got to see video of the academy you have there with all the Dominican players getting fired up, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I remember last year when he hit his first home run as a big leaguer, we had happened to have somebody took a video of it and send it to me, and I sent it out to the media outlets because it was such a wonderful and a wonderful happening there where guys that are just like Juan Soto are watching Juan Soto hit home runs and lose their minds because of their happiness and their affinity for the kid.
Mike, I know you were the scouting director, and you have a tremendous amount of pride for what the Diamondbacks did when they won a World Series, and you were part of that organization. I know you felt a big part of that, but as the president of baseball operations and the general manager of this team, describe what it's like for you.
It's amazing. It's an honor to be the leader of this organization, this group of such wonderful people. It starts at the top with the Lerner family and travels all the way down to every last clubby and trainer and minor league coordinator and area scout, all the way down the list. Because this takes a village. It is a definite team effort, and there's a lot of people behind the scenes that deserve as much credit as I do. And we call it here. This is a we process, not a me process, and it's something that we're proud of here. And hell, there's plenty of accolades to go around, and that World Series trophy when we were passing it around yesterday. A wonderful way to say thank you to your front office guys and the guys in the trenches that don't get nearly enough pay, money, or accolades, way less than I do. So it's a great time to really help to help your organization and really appreciate them.
Mike, you mentioned Ted Lerner, 94 years old last night. You mentioned watching it with your dad, who's 90 years old. Really special for those guys, who've waited so long for this to happen, to be able to share it with them.
Yeah, those are my two 90-plus-year-old guys that we were playing so hard for. Ted Lerner, which hired me back when they signed the papers in 2006 as the assistant GM, and been such a big part of our process here. The interaction that he and I have had over the years has been magnificent, along with Mark and the rest of the Lerner family, and of course my dad, who taught me the game, and we grew up on it. It's wonderful to involve him in it and to see how happy he is and that type of thing. And for somebody who taught me the game of baseball, and a guy who I often say my dad's forgotten more about baseball than I'll ever know. So.
Mike,
it's special.
It's absolutely, Mike. Let's talk about last night, and as you're watching that game in the stands, and you were in Arizona in 2001 as a scouting director when you guys beat the Yankees in Game 7. Great game. We all remember it. And Randy Johnson was used. And when you're watching this game last night, and I know you can't get in A.J. Hinch's head, but he's got Garrett Cole down there warming up. and he's their best pitcher. He might be the best pitcher on the planet right now. And he does not bring him in. He brings in Harris. Now, Harris was his guy all year. I get it. 1.5 ERA. He was his best middle reliever. But were you kind of saying, man, thank God he's not bringing Cole in?
No, I was just saying, thank God I got Greinke out. You know, I mean, he was carving us up pretty good, and he was unbelievable yesterday. He was spotting, 4 pitches, and he had us tied up pretty good, and he seems to always pitch well against us. So it was one of those things. It's like I don't care who they bring in, just bring in somebody besides Greinke.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right,
and
right.
that was my thought process. I was thinking in my mind that Max really grinded it out and held them to 2 runs. I said to myself, if Max can hold this team, what a lineup they have, if he can hold this lineup to 2 runs, we're going to win this game because
I agree.
We're somehow going to find a way, to score 3 or 4 runs. I told my son leaning over, and I said we're going to win this game 4-2, and that was before we scored any runs. I just had that feeling we're drove.
Mike, I know you don't want to deflect. It's not about you. It's about everybody. But really, a lot of it about you. You made some unbelievable additions. You talked about it. You mentioned on this show. You've told other people, I'm sure. More work, more moves this year with all the injuries and everything that you had to do this year. Just how sort of proud are you of all of that and your staff? Is there one move that jumps out at you? I mean, because chemistry-wise, every move you made just clicked and made this team that much stronger.
Yeah, it was an amazing year. We were busy as we could be. We had identified some flaws in the roster. Coming out of spring training, and then we had the injuries, and then we had the bad start. We had to dig ourselves out of this big hole. So we had to find some answers for this ball club because, we were floundering at the time, and we just needed to shore up a few ends of the roster. So, I find, that weight goes on my shoulders and our shoulders in the front office. We're responsible for the roster that Davey has to manage, and we felt it was our obligations to pull those strings and to make those moves. And we were fortunate that I was fortunate that I've had such a long relationship with some of these guys because Power could have went anywhere he wanted to play. He was a full free agent after the Giants released him, as was Asdrubal Cabrera and those type of guys. They could have went anywhere. I mean, I know there were several teams after Cabrera when he was released by Texas, and just a phone call and a relationship. We had both of them. I had Para. I signed him originally in Arizona way back when he was a kid, and he wanted to come and play for me and for us. And we had Cabrera. We had traded for him in one of our runs, and he remembered how great Washington was to play with, play in and for. And so we're fortunate that I had the experiences with these guys. They were available, and then they had decided to ultimately to come with us, and they all made sure they reached out to me and said. Thanks for bringing them aboard, and they couldn't be happier. And when we got them, I told them both. I said, "Man, we're here to win a world championship, and you guys are a good fit for us." So, the decisions we made at the front office were good, sound decisions. We have a really good process here in place, and as usual, we married the analytical with the scouting, and we often get a good feel for the guys that we bring in because we know them pretty much inside and out.
I mentioned this last night, and it wasn't lost on many, I'm sure, but pretty poetic that after the shutdown and everything else, that you guys ultimately win the World Series. Strass wins the MVP. And I'll say this for you, Mike. This is not to attack anybody else, whatever. But I always appreciated that you guys protected the player, right? You could have tried to just win now and burn up some of these arms potentially. Maybe they wouldn't have burned up. But you erred on the side of the player with the faith that, that over time that it would pay off and that you would win a championship. And it paid off last night. Congratulations, buddy.
Well, thank you very much.
Hey, Mike, I like talking about money.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
Yes, sir.
How many times have I asked you off the record about money? All right. Now, last year, and this is public record, all right? Last year, the player pool for Major League Baseball playoff teams was about $90 million.
Yeah.
And the Red Sox split about $32 million. All right, so they get the majority of that player pool. How much is it this year, and how much are the Nats players splitting? Talk to me.
When I get that number, I'll certainly let you know, because it'll be public record, and it'll be out there. But I don't think that it's been fully calculated yet.
Mm-hmm.
Suffice it to say, it's a lot of money. So the players are going to winning the World Series has its benefits, and one of them is they're going to split a whole bunch of money between them.
Now,
so
there's a nice GM clause in there too.
Do
bonus.
they split? Yeah, you're going to get your piece. Yeah. Do they split that evenly?
They vote on the share. Full share, it could be a quarter share, it could be a half a share. Depend on what your role is and who you are, and I know our guys are so generous with their shares, and our player development and our scouting is involved. These our players are gracious enough to take care of our kitchen staff and our chefs and that type of thing, who feed these big leaguers,
right,
day in and day out, and they're like family. So there's a lot that goes into it, and I do know, and I would like to share with the audience that this Nationals team is probably one of the most generous teams that we've ever had here. Every visiting clubhouse man says that we're the best tipping team. We're the most gracious team in all of baseball, and I think that's a reflection of the leadership group here, and mentoring the young kids to take care of everybody, because this is the big leagues, and everyone treats you like gold.
Yeah, Juan Soto's going to get paid.
Yeah, he will. Hey, Mike, I wanted to ask you one kind of strategy thing that you and Davey and the front office, I guess you guys put your heads together, and you made the decision to use these starters throughout the playoffs, starting in the Milwaukee Brewers wildcard game with Strasburg pitching 3 tough innings, and then Corbin and Scherzer in the Dodgers series, and then, of course, Corbin with 3 shutout innings last night. Talk about how that came together, because you guys used those guys, and they all came up big for you.
Well, it's a compliment and a testament to those starters who volunteered and were anxious to help out in any way they can. How about Corbin last night? You talk about Game 7 of the World Series, and this guy comes in after Scherzer and just slams the door and just extinguishes all hope for the Astros comeback, and then we turn to our relief corps, and I can't say enough about the acquisition of Daniel Hudson along with Dew. These guys were the backbone of the back end of that relief corps, this was such a wee. Every time we asked the question to the relievers, we pulled them in. Before Game 6, we had strategized, and Max was feeling better from his neck to the point where he was in the bullpen in Game 6, and then was going to start Game 7. So these elimination games are just that, they're elimination games. There's no Game 7 wasn't promised to us when we were playing Game 6, and to that fact that we had. Mad Max was warming up in the ninth inning if need be. If we didn't score all those tacking runs, he would have been out there and then starting in Game 7. So you can't say enough about Corbin and Anibal Sanchez and Mad Max and Strauss and those guys. Not only games and relieving games, and I think Corbin pitched 4 games and was in relief 5 games here in the playoffs, which
is unbelievable.
Which is remarkable.
Mike, will you tell us deep down, because I know when I saw that presser with Max, and we all know what a gamer he is, for him not to take the ball, told you he was dead. Did you think deep down that he'd be able to start in a couple days in Game 7?
When he came in that day and we had to scratch him, it looked unlikely to me, because the way he looked, he was locked up. And if you guys ever had any back or neck issues, you're touching, every part of your body is just in agony when you can't move your neck, and when you move your neck, there's a shooting pain and all that stuff. So, the way he looked when he came in that day, he looked like he was in a car wreck. So it was. I didn't know. The only thing that gave me hope was that he's Max Scherzer, and I didn't see any bones sticking out of his skin. So I figured maybe there's a chance that he, had a chance to pitch. Our medical staff was shout out to those guys. They were second to none this year. All our doctors to our trainers. Paul Lassard, who's our head trainer, he's been on championship clubs with me. He was with me in Arizona when we won. He won in Boston, and now we won his third championship here with us. His crew and his group of guys, they work tirelessly to keep these guys healthy and on the field, and what a great job they did to get our regular everyday players back when we were going so bad and we were so hurt and banged up back in April and May, and get these guys back and then keeping them back on the field was vital. And what he did with guys like Strauss and Max getting Max back and those guys was incredible. And their work is kind of under the radar because nobody knows them except for when they run out on the field and that type of thing. But these guys are there countless amount of hours every day, and 7 o'clock games, these guys are there at 10:30, 11 o'clock getting these players ready with treatment and that type of stuff. It's incredible, and tip of the cap to those guys because they earn it and they deserve every minute of the accolades.
I just want this for personal curiosity because I said I thought he would be available. You didn't need him because you guys took care of business, but if you needed one out in a tie game or up a run or something, was Strasburg available to you last night for an out, possibly?
We didn't eliminate him. It would have been emergency only type of thing. He was hanging pretty good after a 107-pitch, 8 1/3 inning outing the day before. But
it was in play.
When we didn't eliminate him, I'll put it that way. And what often happens with these competitors, the adrenaline gets rolling, around the 7th or 8th or 9th inning, and you see those guys jogging to the bullpen, and there's they're like John Wayne going out there, man. They want to kick the door in and finish this game off. So I wouldn't put it past them. Like I said, we didn't eliminate him, but we certainly didn't want to use him.
Mike, you're going to have time to, of course, enjoy this. You got the parade coming up soon, and
we'll see you there.
We'll see you there. But if this is a business, as you know, and I want you to give the fans kind of a perspective of what the timeline is on having to make big decisions when the free agency starts. Obviously, we all want to see Rendon back, but it's a business, and he's got a big-time agent. Strasburg has that option. You got these other guys. Everyone would love to see this team back again next year, but that's just not reality. Can you give us an idea of what you're facing here in the next week or so?
Yeah, well, things happen quickly. We play through. We're in the end of October right now, so there's certain mileposts that come up throughout the off season. We'll start making decisions 2 days after the World Series. There's decisions to make, and then free agency comes, and there's a lot of decisions that come 2, 3, and 5 days after the World Series ends. So we'll be making our decisions. We've already thought about what our off-season plan list is going to look like, and we've got some big decisions to make. We've got a lot of guys that are going to be free agents. Beyond Anthony and that group, but. We're certainly going to utilize the process that we've had in the past, and we've got the front office staff to handle it, and we'll make the right decisions on personnel in the near future. But time waits for no man. This stuff, right. It's right here. The off season begins. The off season begins 2 days from now, and we'll be on it and start working.
I believe part of that is 3 days from now, Strauss can opt out. Do you expect him to opt out?
I'm not sure. We have not spoken at all about it. We did not want to speak about it. I haven't spoken to his agent about it. So we'll certainly be communicating diligently over the next couple of days and seeing what he's going to do. And he knows my feelings towards him and his feelings towards me and this organization, and we'll take the next step. But it all starts with an open line of dialogue and communication, and we have a very strong line of communication.
Do you think that your bosses, Mark and Ted, maybe we kind of knew the perception that they had in regards to big money players, and the deferrals and all that stuff. But do you think that their minds have changed at all based on this season and winning a World Series? Do you think they'll be more open to signing the big non-deferral deals?
Well, I've never had a problem with the financial resources that I've had to utilize. We've had, like I said early this year, and when we were 19 and 31, this wasn't a resource thing. This was a personnel thing. So we have certainly have had the resources to field a competitive team. We've done so since 2012. I do not believe that that's going to change. They've always given me the resources to put together a championship caliber club, and I do not see that changing in the near future.
Mike, nobody deserves this more than you, the Lerners, your dad, your family, everybody within this organization. Congratulations, my friend.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on, and it's been a wild ride, and you guys have been great through it.